I, 32F, have been married to my husband Brock, 35M, for 8 years. We met at our mutual friends Mike and Sarah's wedding, where he was the best man and I was one of the bridesmaids. I remember that day clearly. I was helping Sarah with her dress when Brock walked in looking for Mike. He apologized for interrupting, but ended up staying to chat with us for almost an hour. He was charming, successful, and seemed like the perfect gentleman. There was something about his confident yet kind demeanor that drew me in immediately. After the wedding, we started running into each other more frequently at our friends' gatherings. Brock always made an effort to talk to me, and soon we began dating. He worked as a regional sales manager for a large pharmaceutical company, a job he had held for 5 years before we met. His career was flourishing, and he took pride in his success. We dated for 2 years before getting married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by our loved ones. The early years of our marriage were wonderful. We bought a lovely home in a nice neighborhood, and 2 years later, we were blessed with twin daughters, Emma and Sophie. Being a pediatrician myself, I took a 3-month maternity leave to care for them. Brock was incredibly supportive during this time, helping with night feeds and diaper changes whenever he was home. His job required frequent travel to different cities in our region. He would be gone 2 to 3 days every week, sometimes longer if there were important meetings or conferences. I never questioned his work schedule because the job paid well and helped us maintain a comfortable lifestyle. Plus, whenever he was home, he was an attentive father. He never missed the girls' dance recitals, school events, or doctor appointments. He would spend weekends playing with them in our backyard, teaching them to ride their bikes, or helping them with their homework. Brock was also thoughtful in our relationship. He remembered anniversaries, planned surprise date nights, and often brought home small gifts from his business trips. The only strain in our marriage was his frequent absence, but I understood it was part of his career. I had my own busy schedule at the pediatric clinic, and between our careers and raising the twins, life was hectic but satisfying. Last month changed everything. I was cleaning our home office, something I rarely did since it was primarily Brock's workspace. While organizing his desk, I found a receipt from Cartier tucked into the pocket of his coat that was hanging on the chair. The receipt was for a diamond necklace worth $3,000, dated just 2 weeks before. I was confused because I hadn't received any jewelry from him recently, and our anniversary wasn't for another 6 months. When Brock came home that evening, I casually asked about the receipt. He seemed startled for a moment but quickly composed himself, saying it was an early birthday gift for his mother. The explanation made little sense. His mother's birthday was 6 months away, and in the 8 years I'd known her, she had never worn expensive jewelry. She was a practical woman who preferred simple accessories from local craft fairs. That night, I couldn't sleep. Something about his reaction bothered me. I kept thinking about small changes in his behavior over the past few months. He had been more protective of his phone, often taking calls in another room, and spending more time in his home office with the door locked. He claimed it was due to confidential work matters, and I had trusted him. While he was sleeping, I went to his office and opened his work laptop. I know accessing someone's private computer isn't right, but my instincts were screaming that something was wrong. His email was already logged in, and what I found made my world collapse. There were hundreds of emails between him and a woman named Kathy, going back 3 years. The emails contained intimate conversations, photos of them together, and detailed plans of their meetups. Kathy lived in Sacramento, one of the cities Brock frequently visited for work. They had been seeing each other during his supposed business trips. As I read through their correspondence, I felt physically sick. Brock had created an entire alternate life in Sacramento. He had rented a luxury apartment there under his name, where they would meet. He went by his middle name, James, and had told everyone, including Kathy, that he was a divorced father from Seattle with shared custody of twin daughters. This explained his weekly absences. He had used his actual work travel to establish a routine that wouldn't raise suspicions with either me or Kathy. The diamond necklace was a birthday gift for her. There were emails discussing how much she would love it. I found pictures of them celebrating Christmas together during a business conference, vacationing in Hawaii when he was supposedly at a sales training, and attending family events with her relatives. He had integrated himself into her life completely, meeting her friends, participating in her family gatherings, and planning a future together. The most devastating discovery came near the end of my search. Recent emails revealed that Kathy was 4 months pregnant with their first child. Brock had been ecstatically planning their future, looking at houses in Sacramento where they could finally live together permanently once his custody arrangement with his ex-wife, me, was sorted out. There were messages about nursery designs, baby names, and plans for their life as parents. I spent the entire night copying every email, photo, and document to my personal drive. I took screenshots of bank statements showing transfers to their joint account and saved copies of the apartment lease. By morning, I had compiled an extensive record of his deception. After Brock left for work, I found Kathy on social media and sent her a message. I introduced myself as Brock's wife and attached our marriage certificate, recent family photos, and pictures of our life together. I explained everything, that Brock wasn't divorced, that he lived with me and our daughters full-time, and that their entire relationship was built on lies. Kathy called me within minutes, sobbing uncontrollably. She had no idea Brock was married. In her version of reality, she was building a life with a divorced father who was planning to move in with her once his custody arrangement was finalized. She shared more details about their relationship, weekend trips, family events, plans for their future. She even told me about a Bahamas vacation they had planned for next month, the same week Brock had told me he had an important sales conference in Chicago. That evening, after putting the girls to bed, I confronted Brock. I waited until he was in his office and calmly walked in with my laptop. At first, he tried to deny everything, claiming I was misinterpreting things. But when I showed him the evidence and mentioned my conversation with Kathy, he turned pale. He hadn't expected me to discover his secret life, let alone contact his pregnant girlfriend. He broke down, begging me to understand that he loved me and our daughters more than anything. He claimed he had gotten caught up in something he couldn't control, that Kathy meant nothing to him. When I asked about the pregnancy, he became hysterical, promising to end things with her immediately if I would just give him another chance. I told him to pack his bags and leave. I couldn't stand looking at him anymore, couldn't bear the thought of him sleeping under the same roof as our daughters. Before he left, I informed him that I had already sent all the evidence to both our families. His face crumbled as he realized the carefully constructed facade of his life was completely shattered. Now, 3 weeks later, I'm dealing with the aftermath. Brock's family is pressuring me to forgive him, saying that exposing his affair to everyone was cruel and unnecessary. They argue that I should think about our daughters and try to keep our family together. His mother even suggested that since Kathy is pregnant, we could work something out for the sake of all the children involved. But how can I forgive someone who lived a double life for years? Who was planning to abandon his family for his pregnant mistress? Who lied not just to me, but to everyone around him? Am I wrong for refusing to give him another chance? Update 1: The situation has become even more devastating than I initially thought. After my last post, Kathy reached out to me again. We've been in regular contact, sharing information and trying to make sense of Brock's deception. During one of our conversations, she revealed something that made my entire body go cold. Brock had been using our daughter's college fund to maintain his life with her. When the girls were born, we opened a dedicated savings account for their education. Every month, we both contributed a portion of our salaries to ensure they would have the best opportunities in the future. The account had accumulated nearly $120,000 over the past 6 years. Brock had been named the primary account holder since he claimed to have more experience with financial management. According to Kathy, Brock had withdrawn almost $50,000 from this account over the past year alone. He told me these withdrawals were for promising investment opportunities that would multiply our daughter's college fund. I trusted him completely, never questioning his financial decisions because he had always been good with money. Now I know he used that money to fund his secret life, paying rent for their luxury apartment, buying expensive gifts, and taking Kathy on lavish vacations. After learning this, I immediately went through all our accounts with a fine-tooth comb. What I discovered was horrifying. Brock had been systematically draining our savings for years. He had opened multiple credit cards in my name using forged documents, racking up thousands in debt. He had even taken out a personal loan of $30,000 using my social security number and forged signatures. I discovered that the Bahamas vacation he had planned with Kathy was booked using one of these fraudulent credit cards. The diamond necklace, their weekend getaways, even the furniture in their Sacramento apartment, all paid for with stolen money. Money that was meant for our daughter's future. I filed a police report for financial fraud and identity theft. My lawyer is working to freeze all joint accounts and recover whatever funds we can. She's also building a case for criminal charges. The evidence is overwhelming. We have bank statements, forged documents, and even emails where Brock discussed using these funds with Kathy, though she believed the money was legitimately his. Yesterday, things got even worse when Brock's mother showed up unannounced at my house. I was already having a rough day, dealing with the girls' questions about their father's absence and trying to schedule appointments with financial advisors. The last thing I needed was her self-righteous intervention. Instead of apologizing for her son's actions or offering support to her granddaughters, she launched into a tirade about how I was to blame for the situation. She claimed that my demanding career as a pediatrician had pushed Brock away. According to her, because I worked long hours and sometimes had emergency calls, I hadn't given him the attention he deserved. She actually suggested that my neglect had forced him to seek comfort elsewhere. But the most outrageous part came when she brought up Kathy's pregnancy. She had the audacity to suggest that since I earned such a good salary, I should help Brock pay child support to Kathy. Her reasoning? If I hadn't been so focused on my career, Brock wouldn't have strayed, and therefore I was partially responsible for the situation. She even implied that my selfishness in exposing the affair might harm Kathy's pregnancy due to stress. I lost my composure completely. I showed her the bank statements proving that I had been the primary breadwinner for years while her precious son stole from his own children to fund his double life. I told her about the fraudulent loans and credit cards. I showed her evidence of how Brock had planned to abandon us for his new family in Sacramento. She left in tears, but not before warning me that I would regret destroying the family and depriving my daughters of their father. Since then, Brock's relatives have been on a smear campaign. They're spreading rumors in our social circle that I was emotionally abusive and controlling throughout our marriage. They claim I tracked Brock's movements, checked his phone regularly, and restricted his access to our money, all of which forced him to seek freedom with Kathy. They're painting his affair as a beautiful love story that I maliciously exposed out of spite and jealousy. Only my immediate family and closest friends know the full truth. They're furious about these accusations, but I've asked them not to engage with the rumors. I want to focus my energy on protecting my daughters and securing our financial future rather than fighting a social media war with Brock's enablers. The hardest part of all this is watching my daughters struggle. Emma and Sophie are only 6, too young to understand the complexity of adult relationships, but old enough to feel the pain of their father's absence. They keep asking when Daddy is coming home, why he doesn't call them anymore, and if he still loves them. Brock hasn't made any effort to see them since I kicked him out. He's too preoccupied with Kathy's pregnancy and trying to damage control his reputation. I'm trying to maintain their routine and provide stability, but some days it feels impossible. Last night, Sophie cried herself to sleep clutching a photo of Brock, and Emma has started having nightmares. The child psychologist says this is normal behavior for their age, but it breaks my heart to see them suffering because of their father's selfishness. I'm documenting everything, the lies, the financial fraud, the attempts at manipulation by his family, for the upcoming divorce proceedings. My lawyer says we have a strong case for full custody given Brock's pattern of deception and financial abuse. But right now, I'm just trying to take things one day at a time, focusing on protecting my daughters and rebuilding what Brock destroyed. Update 2: Just when I thought I had uncovered all of Brock's lies, more shocking information has come to light. Last week, I received an unexpected message from Kathy's cousin, Maria. She had been doing some research after everything happened and discovered something that made my blood run cold. Brock has done this before. Maria works as a legal assistant and has access to various public records databases. She found court documents showing that Brock was previously married in Seattle for 4 years before meeting me. His first wife, Alexandra, had filed for divorce after discovering his affairs with multiple women. The pattern was identical: business trips to different cities, secret relationships, and financial deception. The court records showed that Brock had been ordered to pay substantial restitution to Alexandra for funds he had stolen from their joint accounts. He had used the same tactics: forged documents, unauthorized loans, and hidden credit cards. Just like with our daughter's college fund, he had drained their shared savings to maintain his various relationships. Maria shared old news articles about the divorce from local Seattle papers. Alexandra had tried to warn others about Brock's behavior through social media and local community forums. However, Brock's family hired expensive lawyers who threatened legal action against anyone who shared information about the case. They managed to get most of the posts removed and effectively silenced Alexandra. This revelation explains so much. When we first met, Brock told me he had moved to our city from Seattle for a career opportunity. He never mentioned living there with a wife. His family, who had always portrayed him as the perfect son who had never been in a serious relationship before me, must have known about his first marriage. They helped him hide it and watched silently as he married me under false pretenses. I shared all this information with my lawyer, who says it significantly strengthens our case. The evidence of Brock's pattern of behavior will help with both the divorce proceedings and the criminal charges for financial fraud. We've also discovered more unauthorized transactions. He had been selling my jewelry and expensive gifts from my parents, claiming they were lost or stolen. Through Maria, I was able to contact Alexandra. She was hesitant to talk at first, afraid of potential legal repercussions from Brock's family. But after hearing my story, she opened up about her experience. The similarities are haunting. Brock had used the same lies, the same manipulation tactics, even the same excuses when caught. Alexandra had also dealt with his family blaming her, spreading rumors about her being controlling and unstable. Meanwhile, Kathy has decided to move back to her hometown in Oregon. Her parents own a small business there and have offered to help her raise the baby. She's filing for sole custody and wants nothing to do with Brock anymore. The stress of discovering his true nature has taken a toll on her health, and her doctor advised her to avoid any unnecessary contact with him. Kathy has been incredibly helpful, continuing to provide evidence and documentation to my lawyer. She found old emails where Brock discussed selling some of my jewelry, proving he had knowingly stolen and sold my possessions. She also had recordings of phone calls where he promised to leave his controlling ex-wife, me, and move to Sacramento, showing his intent to abandon our family. The most significant development came when Brock's family finally stopped defending him. After I confronted his mother with proof of his first marriage and the court records showing his history of fraud, she broke down. She admitted that the family had known about Alexandra but convinced themselves that Brock had changed. They helped him hide his past because they believed he deserved a fresh start. His mother tried to apologize, claiming they never thought he would repeat the same patterns with me. But I couldn't accept her apology. They watched me fall in love with him, marry him, and have children with him, all while knowing his history of deception and fraud. They kept quiet as he stole from me and planned to abandon our daughters, just as they had stayed silent when he did the same to Alexandra. The police investigation into the financial fraud is progressing. They found evidence that Brock has been selling stolen items through various online marketplaces. He's also been investigated for potential insurance fraud related to some of my lost jewelry. His professional life is falling apart too. His company suspended him after learning about the criminal investigation. Through all of this, my daughters remain my primary concern. They still ask about their father, but less frequently now. I've started taking them to a child psychologist who specializes in parental abandonment. It's expensive, but watching them slowly heal is worth every penny. Update 3: The divorce is nearly finalized, and the judge's ruling exceeded our expectations. After reviewing the evidence of Brock's pattern of deception, financial fraud, and abandonment, the judge awarded me full custody of our daughters. Brock's visitation rights are limited to supervised visits twice a month, contingent on him completing a psychiatric evaluation and financial responsibility course. Given his current behavior, I doubt he'll fulfill either requirement. The financial settlement was substantial. Brock is required to repay every penny he stole, including the money from our daughter's college fund, with interest. The judge also ordered him to pay additional compensation for emotional damages and legal fees. His attempt to claim partial ownership of my inheritance from my grandmother was rejected outright when we proved he had forged documents to access those funds. Kathy gave birth last month to a healthy baby boy. She named him Lucas and is doing well in Oregon. Her parents' support has been invaluable during this difficult time. She started taking online classes to complete her degree in early childhood education, determined to build a stable future for her son. Despite our unusual connection, we've maintained contact and developed an unexpected friendship. She sends me updates about Lucas and her new life, and I'm genuinely happy that she's found peace away from Brock's chaos. Surprisingly, she's met someone new, a local teacher who knows her full story and accepts her situation. He's been wonderfully supportive of her and Lucas. It's heartening to see her rebuild her life after everything Brock put her through. She's also helping with the ongoing criminal investigation into Brock's financial crimes, providing additional evidence as she discovers it. Alexandra, Brock's first wife, has become an unexpected source of support. After our initial contact through Maria, she's been helping me navigate the legal system and sharing insights from her own experience with Brock's manipulation tactics. She's now happily remarried and living in California, but the trauma of her marriage to Brock had lasting effects on her life. She had to rebuild her credit and financial stability from scratch, just as I'm doing now. I've completely cut contact with Brock's family. Their recent attempts at reconciliation feel hollow after learning they knowingly let him deceive another woman after Alexandra. His mother still occasionally tries to reach out through mutual friends, claiming she wants to maintain a relationship with her granddaughters. But I can't trust people who enabled his behavior not once, but twice. Emma and Sophie are adapting better than I expected. The therapy is helping them process their feelings about their father's absence. They still have difficult days, especially when they see their friends with their dads, but they're showing remarkable resilience. Their grades have improved, and they've started making new friends at school. The child psychologist says their progress is exceptional given the circumstances. Brock hasn't made any real effort to see the girls since the supervised visitation order was implemented. He canceled the first scheduled visit, claiming work commitments, and hasn't attempted to reschedule. His child support payments for both our daughters and Lucas are already behind, leading to additional legal proceedings. The last I heard, he's been staying with a friend since losing his job and apartment. As for me, I'm focusing on rebuilding our lives. I've sold our house, too many painful memories, and bought a smaller but cozier home closer to my parents. I've returned to full-time work at the pediatric clinic, and my colleagues have been incredibly supportive. The girls love their new school, and we're slowly developing new routines and traditions as a family of 3. Sometimes I catch myself wondering how I missed the signs, how I let myself be deceived for so long. But then I remember that Brock didn't just fool me, he fooled everyone around him. He's a skilled manipulator who had years of practice perfecting his deception. The best revenge isn't dwelling on the past but moving forward and creating a better life for my daughters and myself. That's exactly what we're doing, one day at a time.